Good evening. It's Dale Calder. Hi, nice to have you along again tonight. This evening we're going to have a quick squiz at the Freedom's Call website. I think it's good that we do revisit this, and I just give you a very brief summary, and I hope I can peel this back to around about 20-25 minutes total. Just an oversight of the website. Try not to repeat information that you've been given before. Just so that you can find your way around very, very easily. But just before I do that, I would like to make one point very, very clear. I don't think I've actually touched on this in any of the videos to date. The website itself and the spreadsheets, the rolls of honour and lists, yes, they are a resource for Northlanders and those who had family members who served in Northland or have links to Northland in some way. But equally so, I see this as a resource for all New Zealanders. So seriously, I would ask that you spread the news far and wide throughout the country about the existence of the Freedom's Call website and the roles that are available there. Now you say, why New Zealand? Well, the fact of the matter is that you may have somebody that has a link to, say, Kaitaia, perhaps they enlisted there, or perhaps they did have family there, but they may have, their last known address may have been Wellington, and they, the next of kin may have come from, say, Christchurch. Okay, so yes, they have links to Northland, but equally so, you could argue they have links to Christchurch and or wherever else that might apply, might be the case. So please do get the word out, please, about this website. It is vitally important, and I don't want to see this just, as I think I used the term once before in a post, consigned to the dustbin of history, because that's what will happen. And the fact that so many thousands of hours have been put into the production of this, I'd really like people to, I'm hoping that people will take the time to look at some of these videos. I know they're quite long, and maybe that's just not going to be possible. But at least get the word out there. And if you feel that it's necessary that really I revert across and create a group, and direct people from this page to the group, I'd welcome your feedback on that, because if you think that's what I should be doing, then I'll do it. I'd like to see a lot more content coming in from you people. It shouldn't be just a one-way street where I'm giving you information. I'm sure you have a lot that you could contribute to really make this page hum along. Maybe it's not the right vehicle for it. Maybe we should put this information up in a group. I don't know. So I welcome your comments on that. Anyway, that said, I'm going straight now to the Freedom's Call role. And very quickly, we will, I'll just touch on some of the main points here. Okay, on the main page, what I haven't covered, there's a little bit of information about myself if anybody does want to find that out. I've mentioned that this is the page where you can go to access most of the roles. Okay, so you can get here, you'll find here there's a link to the second NZEF Freedom's Call role. That's a huge role, and I emphasize again the numbers of servicemen and women on this. 6,732 servicemen and women, and there's 8,054 lines of data, and there's another one more going up there, by the way, tonight, I've just been told about. So the second NZEF Freedom's Call Roll of Honour, the biggie. The Freedom's Call Other Forces roles, so we're talking Air Force, Navy, other forces, and so on. The Lest We Forget role, which honours those who fell overseas, who didn't return, or who died soon after returning. The nurses role, and by nurses role I'm referring here to the New Zealand nurses who served overseas, and also the women who served with the Auxiliary Army Corps, because they are also on the list that you find on the New Zealand Military Nurses website. A link to the familial role, and we've spoken quite a lot about the familiar role and the value that that brings to this whole website. And lastly, a prisoners of war list. Those are, and down the bottom, if you would like to make a donation to your local RSA, hey, then please do that. And you can find the addresses there, or you can post a donation in. I don't profit from this website. It's never been my intention to do so. But I'm sure if you do feel you'd like to make a wee contribution to the RSA after reading what you found here, then I'd encourage you to do that if you can. I realise with what's happening now with the lockdown and that just may not be possible. You'll see increasingly probably more and more people giving me a little bit of a thumbs up in terms of what I've done here, and I do put some of those references up here. That's just to make me feel good as much as to make you and know that some people do appreciate the information that is here. An overview of the roles of honour, again, that's all pretty straightforward. Tells you a little bit about different things. And right down the bottom here, we have the various sources that I've drawn on. Just gives you an idea of where a lot of this information has come from as regards the roles of honour. Submenu 1 gets into the specifics of the 2nd NZEF role of honour, and it tells you the criteria I used for putting people on that role. A little bit about this other information there too. I don't think we need to go into, and it walks you through all of the different columns here. And you'll also see, of course, mention made here of those who didn't return from overseas, and there's a breakdown by country of where they fell or where they died. So lots and lots of very, very valuable information here. Now, right throughout the pages, you'll see the odd photograph here or there, kindly lent to me by the Alexander Turnbull Library. I appreciate them letting me use that information, and it's just some of those are rather interesting photos that you'll see. And of course you have access to a quick start guide too. Not to forget, very important, please, if you have any difficulties, you can always download that, and that will get you through to where you want to go very quickly. The embarkation lists themselves, each and every list, by list, I'm talking about the list that I've created here. You can download any single one or all of those, and they are on that next submenu. The other forces role of honour, that comes in next. And there's some little pointers here as to things you should bear in mind as regards the other forces role of honour. I think I've touched on those. And again, you get a walk through the through the columns. The lest we forget role, I think self-explanatory again. It's a very simple little role, but it lists those men who did not return. I think there might even be a woman there, if I recall. Those who didn't return, or if they did return, who died shortly thereafter in New Zealand, and the prisoner of war list itself, and where information relating to the prisoner of war list came from. Okay, so with that, we're now going to move on to the nominal roles themselves. Now, do remember, the nominal roles were where I went when I started off this exercise. This is where I got my base information from. And so basically we started off with an area that was going to be fairly close into Whangarei, about 40 kilometres from Whangarei. But with a second trawl through the roles, I expanded that out so that we covered the North Cape all the way down to the Welsford, round about the Welsford area. So that gives you that. There's a little bit of an intro to the nominal roles here, who's on it and who you will not find on it. So fairly useful information there, because it's no good looking for somebody that's just not going to be there. So I think that's an important section, that that introductory section. The location of the roles themselves, where you can find them. Auckland Central Library it does have microfiches which you're able to access, and I'm guessing some of the other major cities do also. Or you can actually access them off ancestry.com through one of the public libraries. If you have a public library membership, you don't actually have to be a paid member of ancestry.com in order to access this information. As regards the embarkations, I mentioned that there were 16 in all, and I give you a breakdown, a very full breakdown here of all the different units, Army Corps, companies, so you'll get abbreviations alongside of each description. For example, the 5th Anti-Tank Company, 5A, capital TK dot COY, capital COY dot. So, and that includes the non-divisional units as well, and then the additions that came on stream later, that's starting with roll 3 all the way through to roll 11. Nothing in the latter rolls coming to light. The content of the rolls, I think, pretty self-explanatory, just basically tells you what to expect to see there. You've got, again, little keys to point you in the right direction. Lower down on the page, you have an abbreviation key for the many ranks that you're going to encounter, so that you know if you see something that looks like SGT, you know that relates to Sergeant, or BDR, that relates to Bombardier. And then there are many other useful abbreviations that you'll find also down the bottom of the page, which I've listed courtesy of the New Zealand Defence Force. And lastly, there's a little chapter about errata. Errata simply are those entries that were mop-up entries. Sometimes it was found that some entries that were put on the roll were not correct, and so that was remedied by way of an entry in the errata section of the microfiche, of the roll, which you will find on the microfiche or through Ancestry. And anything that I have done has taken account of the errata corrections. Birth, deaths, marriages. Okay, just a little bit of an overview first of all here, and it also tells you where you can go to get information if you're looking for to find out about a birth, a marriage, or a death in either Australia or in England or Australia. You have links to these various indices, and you also get these little reminders all the time. Have you downloaded the Freedom's Call Roll of Honour? Anyway, so what else have we got here? A tip on how to, just showing you if you want to undertake a birth index search yourself, how to go about doing that. And also you can find out the period that's been covered to date in terms of the birth searches I have undertaken. Marriage index, again, a little bit of a tip there too. You know, what you need to know if you're going to conduct the search of the marriage index, and I give you a little walkthrough there. Notes as regards the death index entries. One of the things I mentioned here is to just what those entries are that have been set against a yellow background, and obviously they relate to deaths of servicemen who did not return from overseas, and also some pointers as to why you may not find information relating to a death, which I think is all important. And again, you'll get a little walkthrough in the final submenu on if you do want to undertake a search yourself of the death index, on just how to do that. Moving on to cemetery records, which is menu 4. Links to the main District Council websites, the District Council cemetery websites or cemetery records websites, Whangarei District Council, the Far North District Council, and Auckland Council records, separate links there also for Puriwa and also for the cemeteries in the Hamilton area. and also links through to Find a Grave website and Billion Grave websites if you want to conduct any research yourself up there. And there's some information here, other information here as well, which I think you'll find of use. Specifically, Wangarayan districts, which cemeteries we're talking about. When we talk about Wangarayan districts, I've listed those. And just which cemeteries only have partial records accessible through the Wangarayan district's website. And I list some of the surrounding cemeteries here. There's a whole stream of them. There's about 8 of them with contact people that you can contact if you want further information about that particular cemetery. Far North cemeteries, a similar sort of thing again. Mention the community operated ones and also the council operated ones. Auckland and Hamilton. Many cemeteries in those areas would have been included in the databases for Hamilton, and all of those are listed here. And also for Hamilton, there's a total of 3 that you will find for Hamilton. Not to say we haven't looked elsewhere, we have, believe me. Many other, you'll find that we've pulled in other cemeteries as well for many of these surface personnel. Now, there's one submenu titled Mount Wesley and other cemeteries, so we're now getting into the Kaipara area. There is, as I think I may have mentioned earlier, there are no online records for the Kaipara. Kaipara Council's talking about getting them online, but we're talking here the main cemetery, or main 2 big cemeteries, I guess, being Dargaville and Te Kaupuru Red Hill, but there are some others. And also the council does administer the Kaiwaka and Otomatia RSA cemeteries, Mangatoroto, Congregational and Anglican. And a page also which covers the many cemeteries that I traversed when going through the Find a Grave and Billion Grave websites, and there were many. So there were profile checks run and also cemetery checks run in many instances. And we have, as a result of all of these things relating to cemetery searches, whether it be through the indices themselves, through the likes of the Find a Grave and Billion Grave websites, or other genealogical or whatever resource. There's been a wealth of resources I've been able to draw on that's provided us with a very good repertoire, if that's the right, no, perhaps it's not, receptacle, maybe that's a better word, for all of this information that I've been able to glean. So the last thing I just wanted to really touch on now, some of the, and I've titled it up Knowledge Repositories, but so we're talking about a bit here about the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and the New Zealand War Graves Project, and pointing you to some useful genealogical websites as well. Talk about the 2 national war museums, and also the very prolific Alexander Turnbull Library in Wellington, and show you how you can go seek information about military personnel records, or information pertaining to medals, should you want to request medals. And at the bottom of that particular page there is a full list of war and campaign medals which can be accessed, and also the sort of information that you can get off the Archives New Zealand website as well. I point you to things like Northland Memorials, the online access to the 50-volume series, which covers all aspects of New Zealand's involvement in the Second World War. That is an amazing series, all digitalised, and it really is. It's brilliant. Interviews with servicemen who survived the war as well. On the matter of medals, so yes, you've got a link to where you can go apply for these medals. I also give you an indication as to the medals that were struck during this period, and also some of the foreign medals as well. And I'm not just talking gallantry medals only, but I'm also talking good conduct and long service medals as well, which some of which distinguished conduct and long service medals. Then we have there's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sub-menus, one relating to the Maori Battalion. A bit more information in here, which I think you will find useful, and there's a link to the Maori Battalion role itself, which you can where you can access that here, and also where you can access information on the new Te Rao Aroha Maori Battalion Museum. And there's also, I think, an article that I've highlighted as well, which you can access. It's or the link to it, a new book about 28 Maori Battalions A Company, which is yet to come out. Auckland War Museum Cenotaph does deserve special mention, because so much of the information that is to be found in the rolls does come from that source as well. And I've already touched on the likes of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission and New Zealand War Graves Commission as well. And I've also invited you to contribute information to the Cenotaph. I hope you do, because it's people like you that help build that resource up to the splendid thing that it is now. And fortunately, I've had the good fortune to be able to work with some of the people there. They appreciate the work that I'm doing, and I certainly do appreciate the work that they have done in making information available. A link to the roles that I spoke about for the nurses, that's the Royal New Zealand Army Nursing Service, and also the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps. There is a special page there also for recipients of honours and awards. And of course, you have a link to the nurses and WARC women. There's a link to that particular role as well. Prisoners of War, some information on them. And again, there's a link to New Zealand History Online where you can get a lot more information about prisoners of war. And a little side note, most of them were actually captured, most of the prisoners between April 41 and September 42. Just for your information, if you were wondering. And then lastly, other resources. And under other resources, there's a heap of stuff here. I won't go through it all, but some of it points you to libraries, to genealogical resources, to war memorials, registers. There's some information about when the cenotaph in Whangarei was moved from down the bottom of, I forget the name of the street now. Is it? Anyways, one kid's right down the bottom of Bank Street, the cenotaph that was there, and it's moved across to Laurie Hall Car Park. The World War II Reenactment Society, as I said, Society of Genealogists, the Auckland Library's website, and of course there's also a heap of information here about various RSAs throughout the north and who you can contact if you would like to become a member of the RSA. I have yet to do this. I've been talking about doing it and haven't done it, but a great place. Just to quote there, they've got 105,000 members when I last looked, which is pretty good. And people join because they want to connect with the values that we foster, and it's a great place to socialise and bring the family. And because they want to keep New Zealand communities safe, healthy and inclusive. So that's all of the information that you're going to find here. Always, every now and then, I give you a little memory jogger asking you to go download the Freedom's Call roll. And when you read Freedom's Call roll, you can read into that any of the rolls. Remember, most of them are available on that home page, with the exception of I think only the embarkation rolls, which you will pick up when you go onto the Rolls of Honour, onto that menu, and you can download those individually from there. So I hope you found this of value, and you probably won't hear from me for another month or so, but we've covered a lot of ground here. I appreciate that, but I think it's a useful resource for anyone that's so inclined to take the time and work through some of the things that I've gone through with you. And it will assist anyone materially if they're looking to get the very best out of the roles. And don't forget, if you don't have the time to do all that, there's always that little quick start guide that you can download as well. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Stay safe, and we'll touch base with you perhaps in a month or two's time. All the best. Bye for now.